it's nothing like being able to do what you're passionate about,
For sure.
and enjoy doing it at the same time too. Yeah, nah, for sure, man. That's what it's about.
I mean, like, realistically, I feel like that level of education really helped me once I actually started doing this, because I realized, it ain't all icing and cupcakes.
Yeah,
It's a lot of marketing and sales, and you just happen to do it on something that you want to sell rather than something
yeah.
somebody else is making.
And that's the biggest thing too, man. Like, a lot of times, like when I come across people and it's like, they're going after their passions, and they want to turn that into like income and stuff like that. Like, and because in a lot of cases, like, that's like a fundamental skill. Like, most people don't realize that business, like, that is the main components of business, right? Like
For sure.
marketing, sales, all of that. So it doesn't, like, fundamentally, it doesn't matter what the business is, like, we could be fucking selling lemonade, but at the end of the day, you got to have a good market for it,
Right.
like marketing, sales, the whole nine. Like, those are two, like, I mean, you've been following me for a minute, bro, so like, you already know, like, the
Oh
things
yeah.
that I talk about, like, those are things that I believe everybody should have in their repertoire or their skill set, because it's a skill. You don't like, nobody like, it doesn't matter, your race, your ethnicity, your gender, none of that stuff matters when it comes to learning skills.
Right.
And if you have the ability to pick that up in your repertoire, why not? That's where the money making is at anyway.
Sales, the great equalizer.
Come on, man. Look, you either sell or be sold, man. Somebody's gonna sell you something.
I mean, like, it was always a trip to me, because when I was younger, everybody's got those sales jobs. The cologne in the parking lot, the Ginsu knives, the vacuum cleaners. I sold low volt security systems for like 3 years, and I made more money doing that than any other job that I picked up. It was just not my bag. I didn't like working 10, 11 hour days. I didn't like walking around because it was outside sales.
uh,
So, I mean, I made my money. I was making like $300 a day, which was huge money in like 2001. You know what I'm saying?
True enough.
But like, it took my soul, because I really didn't care about what I was selling. I was cared about the
Yeah,
money I was making.
yeah. That's what it
So,
comes down to. But like, and that's. I mean, I think we all have to go through that moment too. Like, especially if you come from that type of background where you're like, I mean, obviously you're a hustler, bro. You're a go getter, and so like those types of jobs typically appeal to people like us.
right,
Where most people, they're like, oh, they want to rely on the security and stuff like that. But it's like, man, like, in the beginning phase, like when your skill set sucks and you have to put in like those 10,
right,
12 hour days, it's like, damn, like, while you're in the moment is poo, but once you come across on that other side, bro, like, it's, and most sales jobs, though, they don't really give people the opportunity to essentially leverage, right? Like,
right,
you never really have that leverage in your life, because like, you're just as good as your last sale, you know same thing in music too, like, if like, you're not going to make any money if you're not making producing sales,
right.
period. Like, or, like, in a lot of cases, like in the music industry, like, you are the product, and so if you ain't selling yourself, then good luck.
There's a whole extra side to that, because things that you think are gonna make you money in the music industry is not what makes you money.
Correct.
Like, people like, well, I got a good song, I got music out there. People are gonna pay to listen to my music, and I've made more money far and away by selling stuff like this,
Yep.
shirts with my
Correct.
logo on it, just selling merch, selling hoodies, selling shirts. And it's not just these shirts, but like other designs and stuff.
Hmm.
People like, well, I want something tangible. I want a vinyl. I
Yep.
want an album. I want a shirt. I want something to say that I'm a fan. And
Correct.
these shirts, full color print, they're right at like $10 a piece. I sell them for 20 plus shipping and stuff like that. And it makes me covering my shop fees, covering my print fees and all that stuff. But then I don't have to have 100 shirts sitting in the corner in case somebody wants them. Which, you can buy shirts $4 a piece, but you got to buy 100 of them at a time. And
Yeah.
having a huge amount of stock doesn't really do good if you're not sure they're gonna sell.
Not at all. Like, I think that's, like, I mean, granted, in today's world of business, like, there's so much opportunity space to where you don't even have to touch the product anymore.
For sure.
And like, I mean, I think that's, I mean, that's obviously like the route that majority of people would like to have, you know, because one of my best friends, she runs a clothing brand, and like she has that type of system as well, right? But I remember when she was first starting, and like she had like back stock and all that other, like the stuff that doesn't sell too much, and it's like if you don't have to carry that overhead, or if you don't have to even carry the inventory to begin with, that eliminates the expense for the business or for the brand, and which makes it more profitable too. So nah, that's dope, bro. Like I didn't even know you had all that type of stuff set up,
So
man.
like legitimately, one of the first things you learn when starting a business is lean overhead, lean business.
Mm,
As little as you possibly can put in to get it rolling and to start making income. If
yes.
all you got to do is pay $4 in Etsy fees and $30 to set up an account at a POD, and you make your own designs and you get something, just something that you can
Yep.
put out in front of people, be like, hey, look, I do this. If you want to support me, you can buy this. And without that initial $4,000 or $5,000 investment, you're not risking that money in case it doesn't work. But you still have a
Yes.
product to sell. And
Exactly.
one of the biggest changes in business over probably the past 30 years is what is called the pay to receiving a ratio. How soon you put your money out versus how soon you get a product.
Correct.
It used to be you had a product in your hand and then you paid, especially business to business, 30, 60-day, 90-day
Yep.
invoices. But nowadays, most businesses run on like a negative 4 to 5 days where you pay and then you wait until it gets there.
Yeah.
And so it's a little bit risky for like financial scams and stuff like return on your card or something like that.
Yep.
There's still an opportunity to lose money, but you have the money in your hand before
Yep.
any product leaves. So like for instance, if you're setting up a POD company like this, you can actually just set up a credit card and you can wait until that money's deposited in your account and then purchase the pay on demand and pay extra for the shipping for it to get there
Correct.
versus paying to have the product produced before it's paid for, before you get that money in your account.
Correct. Like, and that's what I can appreciate about today's business, though. Like it's a in my opinion, it's a lot more efficient.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I just love what's happened in the business realm. Like, 'cause I've been an entrepreneur for like 12 years now. So like, that's super critical, right? Like, I come across a lot of people quite often that make decent money or good money depending on who you ask, and they don't know what to do with it,
Boots
right?
on
Like,
ground.
I mean, by
Mm-hmm.
licenses, like by trade, like I'm a financial advisor, so like that's like my area of expertise is teaching
Right.
people about money, and so like money management is such a crucial part of being successful financially. And again, it doesn't matter what it is, like whatever you want your quality of life to be, right? Like, because obviously
Right.
for somebody that wants to be well off, they have to adopt and develop habits that are gonna let them do that, right? Because like if you make 100 grand but yet your debt is or the things that you're spending on is 102,000, right?
Then
Like
don't do you no good.
you
All right,
you know
so
you
that's a good segue actually.
yeah.
So let's talk about pay floors. The lowest reasonable daily income that you need for survival. For sure. A lot of people have this idea that I can just eat 3 packs of ramen and I'll be good, or I can have a can of kidney beans and I'll be good. But
Yeah.
when you live like that, when It's you all don't
Yeah.
quick have a money. You reasonable sit around and wait for it expectation until it shows
Yeah.
up, and then you don't
Yeah.
know surviving what and to do with
Yeah.
it. it. You
Yeah.
tend to cut yourself short. Like
100%.
like I believe genuinely $30 a day is what I would spend on a day-to-day basis to be able to thrive. That's eating my meals, that's making sure I got clothes on my back. If I need to buy a pair of drawers or something at the Right. Walmart, I got money in my pocket. So, how do you feel about a lower daily daily income floor?
Yeah. So you raise a good point. Like you sell yourself short. And it's really it's all mentality, right? But that's something that everybody has to work on if they weren't raised in that type of environment
For
where like
sure.
parents were money conscious, right? So like, but for majority of
That
people,
don't do you
like
no
my
good.
recommendation is always go make
All
more
right, so
money.
that's a good
You know,
segue
like I don't
actually.
that mindset
So
where
let's
like you
talk
have
about
to
pay
cut
floors.
back on
The
your
lowest reasonable
quality of
daily
life
income that you
just to
need for
be able to get
survival.
ahead
A
financially.
lot of
But
people, a
you know,
lot of
thank you
people
for
have
creating
this
opportunity.
idea
But I
that
do believe
I can
that
just
there
eat
is
three
a
packs of
certain
ramen
point
and I'll be
where because
good, or I can have
everybody's floor is
a can
different,
of
you
kidney
know,
beans and
like
I'll be good.
depending
But
on
when
someone's
you
responsibility
live like
level or
that, when you
whatever the
don't
issue
have a
is, you know,
reasonable
that matters.
expectation for your
And because at
survival and
one
your
point in my life,
thriving,
like I could
you
survive
tend to
on
cut yourself
$200 a month,
short.
you know. I
Like
mean, a lot of people could back
like
then, right?
I
But
I
it's
believe
you know
genuinely
for sure.
$30
But
a day is what
but
I would
even
spend on a
well, no,
day to
like bro,
day
like I mean,
basis
my
to
last one
be able
bedroom
to
apartment, you
thrive.
know,
That's eating my meals,
although
it's making sure
I
I
was
got
making like
clothes on my
$5,500
back. If I
a
need to
month,
buy a pair of drawers or
but
something at the Walmart, I
my
got money in
living
my
expenses
pocket.
were super low, and I was
So,
okay with,
how do you
you know,
feel
like I
about
come
a
from the struggle,
lower
so like I was okay
daily
with living with less
right.
for a
daily
short period of
income
time while I
floor?
increased my income. But I agree with you though, like so, you know, I know that people blow at least $10 a day,
At least.
you know, and at least $10 a day. So there has to be some type of floor, some type of threshold for somebody to be able to function in their life.
For sure.
And so my recommendation for anybody that's in that type of situation where they're looking to go from like ground zero to the next level is one, assess your circumstances, like to begin with, like what is it in your life right now that's holding you back from making more money.
Right.
But in the meantime, in between time, while you're developing your mindset, you do have to have that objective reality of knowing that like this is what my current situation is right now though, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
Yeah.
if you have like $30 a day, that's comparable, right? And for, maybe for your situation, but you know, to if somebody can afford to have, you know, like that limit where it's like,
Right.
okay, me myself, I can do this, right? Like if to maintain my quality of life, so that way it doesn't
Right.
suffer, you know, because
Right.
like you mentioned a great point there, bro. Like it's ass when you have to like follow Dave Ramsey's advice and like you're eating ketchup bread, right? Like I'm not
Right.
doing that,
Never.
and majority of people aren't willing to do that either. And so that's why like the recommendation is just go make more money, but you should have some type of floor there where it's like, you know, I know for a fact that I can survive on this amount of money,
Back in
and
the
anything
80s.
additional should go towards like focusing on getting ahead, you know, and improving the lifestyle, right? So yeah, man, it's like so that I mean that's really like that's how I feel about having a floor, bro. Like I mean, for me, it's just it's always been make more money. I just can't have the mindset of of not doing that, you know,
Well,
because there's
like,
so many.
well, if you get all your
Right.
income, if you get all your expenditures for the month together, you can
Yeah,
pretty much sort out how much money you need to make a day, a week, a
At
month in
least.
order to
correct,
survive.
and
But
that makes it
right, and I mean, but that is for people that don't have that option. So a pay ceiling would be the point where you're transitioning from your day to day expenses to being able to invest into other opportunities in order to get recurring revenue, which I
correct.
think is
Right.
more your style of income than
Yeah.
most people.
Nah, for sure, bro. Cause like, you know, like I've had to grow from
Mm-hmm.
that mentality, you know. So it's very difficult for me to like kind of go back to that,
Right.
knowing that it feels different on the other side, like what it's actually like. And that's why like I just encourage anybody that possibly can, right? Like get to that point, you know, because like, you know, like that ceiling part, right? Like where you can finally start to invest into different things. Like it all starts with building up that emergency or that safety net,
Correct.
so that way
Right.
you can have that springboard to get ahead, you know. Like the professional recommendation would be 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, right?
Yeah,
But
whose
like
expenses though? My
Never.
I
expenses
mean,
or somebody else's expenses? Because
look,
I
right, but
put like 8 stacks a month into my bills.
okay, so no, legitimate. Hey, look, but either way though, bro, like you know, it's if if it all came down to it, right? Like it's mentality. Like so, if if it really came down to it, what are the expense? If it came down to it, what are the expenses that are necessities, right?
Right.
And those are the like when people say like you should have 3 to 6 months worth of expenses saved, that's what they're really talking about is the necessities of what you have to take
Well,
care of
like,
if it ever came down to
well,
that, you know, like
if
if
you
your
get all
needs
your
never
income, if
stop,
you get all
like
your
how
expenditures for
much
the
like
month
how long would
together,
you really be
you
able
can
to
pretty much
survive on
sort
that?
How
out
long will
how
it
much
take for
money
you
you
to
need to
start
make a
losing
day, a
stuff?
week, a
For
month in
most
So
order to
people, it's
survive.
usually like a month.
But
bro,
right,
it's less
and I
than that,
mean,
man.
Right.
but
Majority of
that
people barely even
is
have a thousand
for
dollars saved,
people
right?
that
So like
It,
don't
when
it
you
have
hurts
think
my
that
heart,
option.
man. It
do. Yeah,
So a pay ceiling
that,
would be
so
the point
that's
where
why
you're
the end
transitioning
game
from
has
your
never
day to
been more
day
alive, bro. Like
expenses
that's why I don't let
to
the
being able
negative
to
talk of, you
invest
know, what, like
into other
there's so many people
opportunities
that
in
say like,
order
oh,
to
everybody's
get
not making it in
recurring
business on
revenue,
there. Like I
which
hear it all the
I think
time,
is
bro, and I'm like, man,
more your
like
style
that couldn't be
of
so
income
further from the truth,
than
man.
most
Like
people.
our country was built on free enterprise and entrepreneurship and things like that. So to think that, you know, like people are hurting right now,
Right.
and being a financial advisor, bro, like I see this every day.
I
So
mean,
like,
realistically, every single person is their own business entity.
correct,
Even when you are working for somebody else, you are selling your time in exchange for money. If you got somebody that will pay you more for your time, you would be foolish to not have a
Correct.
contract with them. You'd be
correct.
foolish to sit still and only accept the little bit of money that you get. And if you're not
Yeah. Whose
actively
expenses
trying to
though? My
find
expenses or
a
somebody
better
else's
position for
expenses?
you and your
Because
people,
I
you
put
and your
like eight
family,
stacks a month
whatever,
into
you
my
and your
bills.
future, you are, because realistically, it is all in exchange time for money. If
Right.
you got enough money, you can buy somebody else's time. And
There
that's
we
what
go.
it is, hiring somebody to do work for you.
That's leverage, bro. Like like once I understood that part of
Correct.
life, you know, like one of my mentors says, if you can afford to pay somebody $10 an hour to do something for you, you do it.
Right.
And you know, like when even when I wasn't in a position to do those things, right? He was like, look, when you do it though, like you're making an investment into your life, and
Right. How
if your
long will it
money's
take for
conscious
you to
and you
start
know that that
losing
money just
stuff?
went out,
And
so
most
that way it
people,
freed
it's
up your
usually like
time
a
so
month
that
or
you
two.
can go do something to go make more money
Right.
while you're in that position of trading hours for dollars, you know?
That
And
hurts
so
my
like
heart,
most
man.
people
It
just don't
hurts my heart.
understand or equate
Cause
that to it. But when you look at successful people, well, people that are financially successful, you know, they will tell you straight up, like you can buy your time back. And that's why it's important that, at least in my opinion, right? That's why I believe that it's important for people to figure out other ways to generate money for themselves. Like you don't have to be
So they can
set
keep
on
their time.
way. And like even because like even with a business, you know, like you can have multiple streams of income within one business. You know
Correct.
that like you
I
don't
mean,
have to
like
go get another
realistically,
job
every
or
single
you know
person
whatever the
is their
case
own
might be.
business entity.
And you know like
Even when you are
those
working for somebody
opportunities
else,
are
you are
available, so
selling
they're
your
out there.
time in
And
exchange for
what most
money. If you
people
got
want is
somebody that
for
will pay you
somebody to
more for your
deliver
time,
like
you would
with
be
a you know
foolish to
pretty
not
little
have a
watch,
contract with
nice
them.
bow,
You'd be
nice
foolish
armband,
to sit
and then
still
and
and
do it for
only
them, you know,
accept
like they
the
just want
little
to
bit of
get
money that
to
you get. And if
magically
you're
get it.
not actively trying
And
to find
that's
a better
but that's
position
the
for you
biggest
and your
difference
people, you and
between
your family,
someone
whatever,
that
you and your
is,
future,
you know,
you
highly
are,
successful. And
because
again, when I'm talking about success, bro,
realistically,
like
it is all
obviously
in
it's
exchange
it's
time for
what like
money. If
someone
you got
whatever
enough
somebody believes
money, you
success
can
is,
buy
that's on
somebody
them, right?
else's
But
time.
like, you
And
know, we're
that's what
talking
it
about
is,
like on the
hiring
outside
somebody to
looking
do
in,
work for you.
like successful people, the major difference is mentality. And that's really all it comes down to. I read something the other day. So there's this book that I've been reading for like 4 years. And
That's a
and
long
so I
book.
Hey,
Right.
no, not at all, bro. It. So I just read it. I just read one page. I just read one chapter a day because it's like 1 or 2 pages per chapter.
Right.
But also, like with my ADHD and stuff like that, it's a good visual. So like it allows me to be able to stay focused on it.
Right.
But but it's called 177 Mental Toughness Secrets of the World Class. So it's a hell of a long book title, but it's worthy of like if you there's a PDF version if you don't plan on paying for it. But like I'm telling you, man, like it's a axe in the forehead every single page, and like the very first page it talks about the differences in mentalities. And so it lists it says that middle class mentality is by far one of the worst mentalities to
So
have
they can
because
keep their
those
time.
people live in delusion. And so the delusion is that they know that there's a higher level that they can
Correct.
achieve, but deep down they also understand they're not willing to put in that work.
Correct.
So what they do is they make the excuses of, you know, I got to spend time with my family, I've got to do this, right? Like they do everything. They know that sometimes it takes a little bit of,
Nice
you
and
know, just
easy.
sacrifice for a short period of time, but they're not willing to do that. And
Correct.
but the reason being is because they know as well that there's people that are not doing as good as them. And so they look down on other people and they say, well, it could be worse.
Right.
So I'll just stay here. And so that small difference of mentality, and I say small difference, but it's small
Right.
differences over a long period of time, which makes it a drastic difference in thinking. And that's why majority of people are not where they need to be financially. And it's really because, like, well, really it's three things, right? Like, number one, the lack of education.
Mm-hmm.
That's a long book.
Like, where do you think most people get their financial education from?
What's that?
Okay, like
I
we're
mean, they
not
didn't
taught
teach you how to balance
Right.
a checkbook in high school.
barely,
Got the trigonometry though.
come on, man. Like, and it's like
Right.
we don't learn this stuff in school. And then most people are getting their financial advice from their friends, family, and coworkers, or some guru online that's not even a licensed professional and all this other stuff. And I'm not saying that you have to be licensed in order to like to know
To
stuff,
have
right? But
common sense.
yeah, but that leads to like, so number two is that like most people don't have a plan,
Right.
and most people don't plan to fail. They just fail to make a plan. And like nobody graduates high school and says, "Oh, I'm gonna do my best to be a bum living on the side of the highway." Like that's typically not what happens.
Hey, them cats
And
make
so,
money.
hey, look, hey, those are some. So I'm in Houston, right? And obviously there's like a homeless rate that's pretty high out
Yeah.
here. And I look, sometimes I pass by and I'm like, man, like
Correct.
these people are out here hustling every day, but yet you got some people that aren't even willing to, go out and get it for their family or for their goals, their dreams and stuff like that. And it's like, same thing with alcoholics, right? Like they're going to do their best to get that drop of alcohol, like
Correct.
hell or high water, they're going to make it happen.
What they
You
say?
know,
You ain't never seen a crackhead without crack.
hey, come on, yo. It's true story though, right? But
Real,
like
real talk.
Correct.
that plan, most people's plan is like, I know how much I make in my job or with my business. I know how much my bills are, and that's really about as far as it goes. And so like that, like imagine taking a trip to California or somewhere in a foreign territory with no GPS. Like we wouldn't do that in a real life scenario, but like yet
Hmm.
people navigate their financial journey that way.
Correct.
And so the third reason why
What's
people
that?
struggle is there's no help.
I mean,
Like
they didn't teach
like
you how to
literally
balance a
there's no
checkbook in
help.
high
and
school.
and that's why my heart
Got
goes
the
out to a lot of
trigonometry
people,
though.
and that's why I'm not arrogant about like the like building businesses, and I don't down anybody, because at the end of the day, bro, like the people that are out here helping folks, like from a financial standpoint, like traditional financial companies, they're looking to sell products,
Correct.
you know
They
like
want you in debt.
oh yeah,
To
all
have
day.
common
Like
sense.
their goal is to keep you to be like to help to make you a client of theirs for the rest of your
Right.
life, and like and get you to like everybody's looking for your money,
At
somebody's gonna take
31%.
facts. And like
Hey, them cats make money.
like at the end of the day, like these like and it's unfortunate that there's like predatory products that are out there, like all kinds of stuff, and people are falling
Yeah.
victim to it like left and right. And that's another reason why, like, you see me online, like I'm like, that ain't it, this ain't it, like, because when you're surrounded by people that are high level thinkers, like one of my mentors is over $200 million worth of real estate, things like that. So like when I'm hearing these people, what I'm learning from them, and I'm seeing on Facebook and TikTok all these freaking people
What they
talking
say? You
about
ain't never seen a
being your
crackhead
own
without
bank and
crack.
all this other stuff. And it's like, dude, like so many people fall victim to this
real,
because
real
they're
talk.
looking to get rich quick, or they're looking for a solution because they're desperate, and they fall right into the trap of these large institutions, and they take advantage of people that don't know how money works. And
For
how
sure.
difficult is it to play a game when you don't know the rules to it. And that's what's happening right now. People are just now getting hit, and it's like, I hope it's not too late. It's not really, but like at the end of the day,
Correct.
for a lot of people, if they don't get it together, it's gonna get real spooky in the next couple years for people.
Bro, bankruptcies are already higher than they were pre COVID.
Yep.
Like 2023 had a rise in bankruptcies. I want to say it was like
Yep.
28, 29%. People
Hmm.
getting people have situations where they can't produce the money, but they were sitting at home not spending any money, and they
Correct.
were
Yeah.
used to buying
They
all the
want you in
stuff, and
debt.
now they actually going out and they wanted to maintain that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were enjoying that extra money that was coming
Yeah.
in to support their lifestyle, and they weren't actually planning to
At
have to
31%.
resume.
Correct.
So
Like you just mentioned something really powerful there. Like the debt crisis that's happening in America. Like just 2 years ago, consumer debt was at like pretty much an all-time low.
correct.
And here we are 2 years later, over $1 trillion in consumer debt. Like that's a lot. and to
Yeah.
go from like just 2 years ago, and like, but that's another reason why like I have such a heart for people right now, because it's like, man, like, if you like, I read something and it said, if you can control someone's time and you can control their pockets, you can control the person.
Correct.
And and that's literally what we see happening across the United States right now, really, really the world, right? Like, we're not the only ones being affected by it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's,
China real estate is going all the way down.
hey, listen, and I think that,
for sure.
in today's society, there's never been a better opportunity to generate income. And it's like, there's this meme that's going around and like saying multiple streams of income is like a necessity, right? But it's always been a necessity. Like, for people that understand money, like, it's always been. And so in today's
Bro,
society, like,
bankruptcies are
it's
already higher
so
than they were
critical for people to be able
pre-COVID.
to
Like
reposition themselves in the
2023
marketplace.
had a rise in
And these
bankruptcies. I
companies
want
are
to say it was
paying
like
more than ever
28,
too, right?
29
Like, sometimes
percent.
people,
People
the
getting
thought process is that
people
they're not
having
paying.
situations where
Like, these companies are paying.
they can't produce
And
the money, but
especially
they
if
were
you're
sitting at
working on like the
home
contract
not
side,
spending any
like,
money, and they
because
got
that's what
used to
companies
buying
are
all the
going for.
stuff, and now
Time
they actually
Magazine
going out and they wanted to
Time Magazine
maintain that
predicted this
lifestyle.
years ago.
And a
That
lot of
years ago,
people
that
were
middle management was
enjoying
no
that
longer going
extra
to be a thing.
money that
Middle
was
class
coming in to
families
support their
were going to
lifestyle,
be
and they weren't
dissolved,
actually
and
Right.
things like
planning
that.
to
And Time
have to
Magazine's
resume.
typically never wrong when it comes to stuff like
So
this. They've got a good track record of predicting what the economy is going to look like later on down the line. And if people don't figure out how to pivot now,
correct.
in the next 3 to 5 years, and like, because technology is rapidly, increasing. I mean, you think about it, like, the moment that
Yeah.
the newest AI technology comes out, like 2 weeks later, it's old now, right? Because
Oh
something
God,
else
let's not talk about that. That
got
so everybody assumed that the advent of AI and the advent of smart computers was going to help the blue collar
Correct.
worker and allow us all to have time to invest in our arts and crafts. But instead, the people that are making the least still have their
Yeah.
jobs flipping
Yeah. China
burgers,
and real
but they're
estate is
taking away
going
all the
all the
creative
way
work.
down.
And they're doing a really bad job at it. If you ever looked at any of the AI art, it's always really creepy and spooky. But that is a very sore point for me as a creator and as a
I'm right.
musician, because
Hmm.
they've done songs that just like emulate Drake or
Yeah,
emulate Lil Wayne or whatever, and I'm like,
yeah. Imagine not being able to get paid on your own image and likeness,
right,
um, because some technology
just
stripped your
strip it up.
voice. And imagine that. Yeah,
Right.
no, as a creative, bro, like, I'm right there with you, and because there's a certain level. It's one thing to use technology as like an assistant, or
Right.
to do it that way. But like, when you use it I feel like, I actually talked about this a couple weeks ago, with someone, and we were having the conversation. We were talking about how, like, you got a bunch of people
Right.
that are like amateurs in business and amateurs at a particular craft, and they appear to be experts, when it's like, dude, like, all you did was put that in Chat GPT, and clearly you put it in Chat GPT,
Clearly.
because, like, anybody that knows how to write a research paper or has gone through some level of education, we know your ass didn't write that. So, um, you know what I'm saying?
There's a lawyer that got disbarred because of Chat GPT.
No way, bro,
Yeah,
for real.
like they went and used it to write up some paperwork,
Oh
and
God,
when
let's not talk
didn't
about
proofread
that.
enough to put
That
it in front of the
so
judge. Judge read it and was like,
everybody assumed that the
"This
the
is this
advent of
is not
AI and the
accurate. All of
advent
this is
of
not the proper
smart
law. I don't know why
computers
you presented
was
it."
going to help the
Dude didn't
blue
even bother
collar
checking his
worker
work.
and
Let him
allow us
let him
all to
go.
have
End
time
up
to
getting
invest in
disbarred
our
for it.
arts and crafts.
Like, I mean,
But
people say
instead,
that
the
technology
people
is
that are
like so
making the
far advanced,
least
but like,
still have
technology's
their jobs
only as
flipping
smart as the
burgers,
people who like
but they're
put it
taking
together.
away all the
So,
creative work.
there's still
And they're doing a
room for
really
human
bad
error
job at it.
within
If you
technology.
ever looked at any
So,
of the
like
AI art, it's
realistically,
always
if you
really
don't,
creepy and
I'm
spooky.
gonna nerd out here
But
for a second, just bear
it
with
that
me.
is a very sore point for
So the
me as
way
a
AI
as
works
a
is
creator
it
and as a
it takes
musician,
a line of
because they've
question
done
and it
songs that
runs
just
down to until
like
it finds a fault, and
emulate
it runs
Drake
down and runs down
or
and runs down and does
emulate
it over and over
Lil
and
Wayne
over
or
and over and
whatever, and
over
I'm
again
like,
until it can emulate the
right,
possible reactions to its movements and then
just whip it
pick
up.
from the best option for those particular movements, and then it does that over and over and over and over and over again until it basically removes all the randomness from whatever's going on.
Right.
Like, you can see people running tool assisted speed runs on video games and how it makes all the jumps exactly perfect, and somehow it beat the whole Super Mario game in 4 minutes and 12 seconds, and that took us years and years as a kid. But if
For
it's
sure.
only as good as what you're feeding it, if you don't have high quality programming, if you don't have the proper goals and things to look for, it's
Clearly.
just going to be horrible for you. And the people that are writing this stuff, they're smart, but they may not have that
Man,
level in
there's
art.
a
And
lawyer that got
what
disbarred
I'm
because of
worried
Chat
about
GPT.
is them
Yeah,
taking
like
from
they
artists
went and
to
used it to write up some
feed this,
paperwork, and then it
and
went
then
didn't proofread it nothing,
by
put it in front of
proxy
the judge. Judge
taking
read it. He's like,
livelihoods away from the people
this
that
is not accurate at all.
right
This is
that
not the
have
proper
fed
law. I don't
into
know
this
why you presented
machine.
this. Dude didn't
Yep.
even bother checking
No,
his
man,
work. Just put it in there
and
and let it go.
that's why you see
Ended up getting
people
disbarred
like
over
that
it.
are doing like they're making money selling the prompts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like most people, like everybody's heard of Chat GPT, but most people don't know how to use it. And
Right.
then like they're like, here's such and such amount of prompts for whatever, and that's why they're making money. Because
So,
again,
like
people
realistically, if you
like they
don't,
see an
I'm
opportunity.
gonna
People
nerd
are
out
like
here for a
ants,
second.
bro.
Just bear with
Like
me.
if you leave
So the
food out
way AI
and
works
like the ants are gonna
is
come out, they're gonna jump on the food, right?
it
Like
takes
they're gonna
a
take a
line
bite
of
with their
question
mouth,
and it
Everybody
runs
everybody wants
down
to know
to it
where
till
it's
it
at.
finds a fault.
hey, look,
And it
man,
runs
it's
down
like
and
okay,
runs down and
And
runs down.
there's
It
look
does it
around
over and
stupid.
over and over and over and over
hella,
again until
and
it
that's
can
exactly what happens, right? With everything, like
emulate
people are
the
getting whipped up stuff.
possible
Like same thing with
reactions
business,
to its
this is what I tell people
movements
all the time.
and
If you're gonna
then
get into
pick
business, like make sure you do
from
your
the
research.
best option for
Make sure,
those
like, and when I
particular
say do your
movements,
research
and then it
extensively
does
too,
that
don't just
over and
rely
over
on
and
one
over and
YouTube
over and over
video of
again
somebody that's
until
successfully doing it, right? Like
it basically removes
find
all the
multiples,
randomness
right? Like find
from
multiple
whatever's
The
people.
going
start and
on.
end of your
Like you
research
can
is a
see people
YouTube
running tool
video.
assisted
I
speed
don't know
runs
what
on
to
video
tell you, but
games
you need to keep
and how
going.
it makes all the
Exactly,
jumps
and that's
exactly
real
perfect
life
and
too, right? Like
somehow it beat
so
the
it
whole
starts
Super
with a
Mario
research
game in four
standpoint,
minutes and 12
you
seconds and
because I
it took us
believe in
years and years as a
doing
kid.
taking
But
calculated risk,
Right.
if
it's
it's
just
only
like
as good
the
as what you're
majority of
feeding
traditional
it,
business, like
if
you
you
do got
don't
to have some
have
type of money to
high
go in.
quality programming, if you don't
So
have
like
the
I just tell
proper
people all
goals
because that's where
and
people are
things
going
to
to go
look
anyway, right?
for,
YouTube,
it's just
Google, like
going
that's the
to
first
be
source
horrible
that
for
most
you.
people go to. So it's like if you're
And
going to
the
do
people
that,
that are
at least
writing
do
this stuff,
credible research on there,
they're smart,
like
but they may
and
not
because like
have
we
that
can't
level
protect
in
people
art.
from
And
doing that
what
anymore.
I'm worried
Like back in
about
the day we could,
is
where it's like,
them
okay, go take your ass
taking
to a
from
library, go look at
artists
an
to
encyclopedia or
feed
something like
this
that,
The
and
and
then
proliferation of
by
information
proxy
has been a
taking
disservice
livelihoods
to the
away from
people
the
that do
people
not have a proper
that
background in
right that
research.
right,
have fed into this
correct, bro,
machine.
correct, because they see something and immediately want to jump on it, and it's like, man, like no wonder
Hmm.
why you feel like you're not getting further in life, and it's because
Right.
you don't have a solid foundation. It's like you're building on sand, and it's very difficult to do it to build anything on that, right?
Correct.
And all it takes is a good old windstorm or the shore to rise up a little bit of the tide to rise a little bit higher than normal.
They gonna let everybody else
you
know where
know
it's at,
and
and then it's all
what we're feeling
gone,
in
and
the
then
world
they
right
look
now
around
with the
stupid.
times that we're in you know
So that's actually a really good segue. I was thinking about this earlier, but
Mhm.
it goes back to it takes a village.
Yes.
When we were much more crude as a people, we generally had family units that stuck together through multi generation
if
loops,
if the start and
and
end of
we
your
all were
research
there
is a
to
YouTube
support. We
video,
took care of
I
our
don't know what to
elders
tell you,
when they
but
were
you need
too
to keep
old
it
and too young
moving.
to take care of themselves. They took care of the children when the children were too young to take care of themselves. And the
Yeah.
people in the middle, they produced enough to take care of both ends because they knew that
Right.
they were once taken care of and they will need to be taken care of
Correct.
in the future.
Yeah.
So, like on a more modern level,
Yeah.
I believe that networking and laying down a community or a village in your system would
Mhm.
be the equivalent of that. Not necessarily, your lifelong
The
bandmate going from
proliferation
chasing your parents
of
for 10 years to
information
your
has
grave,
been a
but
disservice to the
having a
people that
support
do
network
not have a proper
outside of
background
what
in
you would
research.
normally expect to
Right.
show up would be beneficial to most people, especially those just starting out in the business.
Right. Yeah. Nah, I mean, like before it really cut out, I was just talking about like for new people that are in business, like how crucial it is to like have a network or have people around you that are going to be able to help support you, but also help you grow too, right? But like, my caution with people is this too, because it's easy to be selfish, when you're just getting started, it's important that you bring value to those spaces too.
Correct.
Like don't be a leech. Don't like I mean, it's one thing to be inside of an environment just to like soak up the information and learn, but like it's another thing when you're just taking up space, right? And so
Right.
be like and so that like that's my main thing with that, right? Like if you're gonna build a village or have people have that sense of camaraderie, like it needs to be there. But there's so much competition in today's world as well in terms of business, and most people would be like most artists, like most business owners, like it doesn't matter really. Like when you're just getting started out, your best bet is collaborating.
Correct.
Because you get a chance to reach other market spaces that you might not have gotten a chance to reach. You get a chance to have opportunities that you might not like, because in business, right, it's never about what you know. In most cases it's about who you know and who
Correct.
they know. And so, like fundamentally, like that is like anybody that I coach in business, like they know, like your ass better be networking, because that's like the lifeblood of a business. Like if you have, but in networking, like some people get it confused, right? Like they think networking is just like exchanging numbers and like maybe I'll hit you up later on down the line if I got a referral for you or something like that. Like, dude, that's not networking. Like, and if you consider that networking, then how strong
Is your
is
network.
the web,
Right.
right? Like how strong is the web? And so, but that sense of community, bro, like that is so important. And like the people around, like, and I guess I'm just fortunate and I'm blessed enough to have the people in my life that I have, where we are a village. So like the sense of community that you're talking about, like I believe everybody should have that, because like even if you're an introvert, right, like at some point in time, you certain situations are going to call you to be a little bit extroverted, right?
Right.
But being able to have those people that are in your corner that got your back, and without a shot of a doubt, man, like just knowing, like if I need to pick up the phone and call somebody, like it feels good to be able to travel to another city and be like, I know somebody here,
Right.
you know, and that hits a little bit different too when you're in business, like like somebody out here, cool, we conducting business. This whole trip's a tax write off, like
Right.
look, yeah,
Let's get that
like
dinner. Let's get that lunch.
like let's go make something happen, like, but yeah, having that sense of community is important, bro. Like it's especially when you're just starting out, like find people that have done what you want to do, and like see how you can be a part of that, like, or of what they've got going on, see how you can add value to what they've got going on, right? Like, and when you can shift your mindset, it's difficult to do in the beginning, right? Because like in the beginning phase, it's like I gotta focus on me, like I gotta get to the next level. And but if you can reverse engineer that thought process into like how can I be of service to other people,
Right.
I think that that's where the game changer is for a lot of folks that are getting started. If you can just eliminate the need to be selfish, you know.
So
So
there's an actual story about this. Everybody knows who Bruno Mars is, right?
right.
He's been performing since he was little bitty. His parents were performers. But what people don't really know is Bruno Mars was a studio rat for a long time. He stayed in the studio. He was always doing vocals. He was always doing background. He was always listening, always trying to help, always trying to be a part of something.
Mhm.
Whatever it was, he was trying to be a part of it. And he did that for years and years and years before he ever got a solo career,
Yeah.
before he ever got a single. And people like, oh yeah, dude's 24. He's got a really big solo career. He's got all these collaborations with Anderson .Paak and all these folks. Dude's been in the studio since he was like 4. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Dude's been getting it since he was little. He was always doing it. He was always trying to be a part of something.
Yeah.
And then when he finally got his chance, he was experienced enough to be able to take it.
Correct.
And that's something that a lot of people don't know about
Yeah.
some of these artists, some of these national artists, is
Right.
where they came from, like and the financial backing behind them, the people that were willing to put in to help them.
Correct.
And like on a local level, like for instance, what I do is
Hmm.
I do interviews. I bring marketing to people. I show what your music, who you are as a person,
Right.
What kind of things do you do? How do you like to do it? And then I was like, hey, if you want to do a show, I'll guarantee the door. If you want to do a show, I'll make sure that it doesn't cost you nothing. You might not make nothing, but I'm gonna make sure that you ain't got to come out of your pocket, so
Right.
you can determine if this is what you want to do, and then you get an idea of what it takes to market a show, what it takes to pay a venue, what it takes to set up and get some money going, and the amount of money that you can actually make if you pack out
Right.
a show.
For sure. And that's something that, and that's actually pretty dope that you do that for the community, bro, because like, think about how many artists that are out there and they just want their stuff to be heard.
Right.
And they just don't have the platform, or I mean, depends on who you ask, right? But like they just don't have that platform for them to be able to get that outreach or whatever the case is. But also you're a veteran in the game too, right? So it's like, when you get a chance to pour back into the community, and that's what leaders should be doing. Like I think that like that is another part of the reason of why our country runs the way that it does in a lot of cases, is because like our generation, the previous generation, whatever, like I mean, I'm not pointing blame on anybody, but at the end of the day, like the style of in which like the knowledge to be passed down, how it's not consistent, and like
Mm-hmm.
that's like raising kids, like like it's like raising kids.
Bruh.
But at the end of the day, bro, like it's like it's important that for those that are in a position to teach, that they
That they
that we
do.
teach. Yeah, it's important because most people, I mean, but successful people are okay with doing that. Like that's a common quality and trait. Like the misconception is that successful people aren't willing to do those things. They're not willing to help out the little guy, but that's
Even
so
when I
far
was
from.
younger, even when I was younger, if I eat, we all eating. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. Like, and like you talked about Bruno and like the behind the scenes, and just think about how many people's behind the scenes looks like that. Like most people compare folks highlight reel to their behind the scenes, right? Like when they're broke, they're not where they want to be, they're defeated in their life, and they're like, this person is living a great life. And then social media doesn't really help, right?
No,
Like
it does
everybody,
not.
like dude, like nobody would dare, like majority of people wouldn't dare put up a picture of themselves that's like not flattering, right?
I spend
And
more time editing videos than I do shooting them. Just,
there we go.
I mean, and my angles are not the best. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? But I'm not fixing to just let that go. Gotta get the beard right and everything before we get started.
I feel it, man. But nah, man. Like I mean, most that process though, right? Like, you know, everybody has to go through. I think it's unavoidable. You
Mm-hmm.
know, everybody has to go through that behind the scenes stuff. That one day everybody says like, "Dang, man, they're lucky." Like, oh, how'd they get there?
Bruh, if
And
you in it, you know that it ain't really. I mean, there's luck
exactly,
involved, but luck is when preparedness meets opportunity.
there we go. And when the rubber meets the road right there, it's game over. Like you only need to be right one time.
Right?
you know,
Right? You just
you
need
just
to
gotta
put it
get
on black once. Just once.
look
Got to get that 49% hit.
for sure, Nah, but that's what's up, man. So that's what's up. But yeah, nah, that's important, bro. That behind the scenes stuff is crucial.
Okay. So let's take this next step. Let's
Yeah.
talk about strategies for off seasons.
Okay.
What do you do in order to save for income swings, or how would you invest for income swings if Christmas coming up and you got an extra 3 stacks that's got to go out because you got to get a little Billy a Huffy, or that your business is shutting down for the off season. How do you accurately gauge what you need to put away in order to cover a low season?
Yeah, great question. So, like, we kind of touched on it earlier when we talked about like having like the emergency savings and things like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if you have an I like so, and I'm not a huge fan of budgets, but I know for the everyday person, like you should have some type of budget.
Right.
Like most people, like especially like during holiday season, like we're rapidly approaching that season where all these
Right.
corporations want our money. right? And like we've been duped into thinking that you're a bad parent because you didn't get Billy a Huffy,
Bro,
right?
I got 4 kids, man.
Bro, I
I
got
know I'm
five.
a bad parent. I ain't trying to do all that.
Look, I got 5 kids, man. Like my kids, like my, like so, like at the end of the man, imagine that, bro. Like, like so. Here's the thing. Like most people, they allow society to keep them broke, bro. And it's like it's difficult to have the mentality that like when you say yes to one thing, sometimes you're saying no to another, and when you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to another, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so my thing is this, right? If you know that Christmas is like 90 days away, you know,
I
we
mean,
should
it's pretty close. It's pretty close.
it's hella close, right? Like you know, when you know that that's coming up, then you should already be prepared for that. Like for some reason, like I have conversations like this with people, and they're always saying like, "Man, time flies." Like just yesterday, they were in diapers, and it's like, yeah,
Right?
little Billy needs a car, and it's like
Can't get it
you
for
didn't
me.
like okay, like what do you mean you weren't prepared for this? And so it's really just shifting the focus on what it is that you like, the lifestyle that you want to have. And if you feel like buying Billy that Huffy is important, then budget for that.
Right.
you know Put that money to the side. But on that slow season though, just know that like that's where, if you didn't do a great job of saving that money, because like there's this thought process that like savings doesn't do anything for someone, and it's like you're an idiot. Like before you start investing, like you've got to have some type of
Something.
safety net,
Right.
right? And so because there's always a level of risk to investing. So when it comes down to preparing for those low seasons, like one of the main things that I teach people to do, especially for folks that work on commission where their income is gonna be up and down. Cause like I mean I'm a business owner, so I understand that firsthand.
Right.
So like I like firsthand. So, in those situations, like that's why it's really important that you do have a threshold where like, hey, hell or high water, like I've got this amount of money saved. So like if 2,000 is your number, then if you have 2,000 in your account, then really you have $0.
Right.
And so just have a set number, right? So if you have things coming up where like Christmas and things like that, know how much you want to spend on those things and stick to that. Like, I mean, granted, it might be a little difficult, but like to gauge, but
Right.
have that number, because by you at least knowing what that number is, it gives you a better chance of hitting that versus not having that, right?
Like,
And so, go ahead.
I was gonna say, not being blindsided by it when you show up and all of a sudden you ain't got no money.
Correct. So like, and I prefer this, right? Obviously, I'm big on investing and things like that, but because I'm a licensed financial advisor, like on a public platform like this, I wouldn't be able to like make a recommendation.
Correct.
But I will say this in terms of like savings and things like that, if it's for the short term, it's okay to keep that money in the bank. Like you don't want to invest money just to turn around and pull it out, because there's a difference between trading and investing, right?
Right.
Investing is for the long term, trading is for the short term. And so like you don't want to just be putting money in and out, right? Trying to time the market and all that other stuff. So like have a solid game plan on number one, like what is it going to take for you to accumulate that type of money that you need to
Right.
have saved. And because having that blueprint is going to allow you to work that strategy. Like it's better to have that and like fall a little bit short than
To not have
not have.
anything. Right.
Yeah. So like have that plan intact. Once you hit your goal, run it up, because anything extra is an added bonus.
Right.
And so like if you're going to have those slow seasons, like in the on seasons, like you better be on it. Like you can't afford to have a slack hand. Like that breeds poverty. And so so having that strategy, going as hard as you can during the on season, so that way you can ride that wave out. Because like if you got money, you're not worried about the next thing.
Right.
And so I think that that's really crucial to the down seasons, because like most people's down in business, unless you're selling a product that appeals to like holiday season and things like that.
Unless you're Mariah Carey.
Yeah, okay. Like, hey, look, man,
Get the
the
million
million
streams. For November and December, that's it.
Them royalties, man, them residuals, they gonna collect that every single year, man.
By the
Like,
way, just put this out there. You don't ever see a penny of your residuals for at least 3 months after you get that rotation.
yeah,
So Mariah Carey be having them good spring breaks, but she
yeah,
ain't seen that money in time for Christmas.
true enough. But like that's, I mean, but think about it, like the delayed gratification of that,
Mm-hmm.
like knowing that, like you have to be mentally prepared for those things,
Right.
like, and I think that that's super critical to someone's success in the down season, because like as a business owner, as an artist, like everybody has that, like around this time of year, like you can't convince people really. I mean, you can, but like you can't convince people to get their shit together financially, like because they're so focused on, like what the world says you have to do in order to be a decent human being, and I'm like, once you can eliminate that mindset that like what society says is what goes, I think you can get a lot further, like because those
Man.
times where we were up and coming in our business, man, like although I felt shitty where it was like, man, like I can't go all out for my kids Christmas, but I'm also like, they're like my kids, dude, like all it took was like, we know we were kids at one point, we know our kids are going to take those gifts, they play with them for about a week, and then like
Be
those
done
shits
with
are
it.
collected dust, bro, or they're broken week
Right.
one, you know
Right.
and it's like, okay, at some point in time as the adult, right? You have to ask yourself, is the financial future, is the security of my family more important than giving my money to a corporation when all they're going to do is take our money and they're going to get secure on that? They don't have off seasons because they're doing stuff like this,
Right.
And and once you can eliminate that mindset that like that buying those things are more important than securing your family, because what I do know is this, you know like if you have kids, that you should like, my fear was always this, that my kids would look back and be like, man, you know my dad was a bum, this provide for us, he didn't, and it was, he blamed us as to the reason why
Yeah, he
he
couldn't
didn't
do
go after
nothing.
goals and dreams,
Mm-hmm.
and most people, like my like that's another thing too, right? Just having the communication on the front line with everybody that's involved in that situation, everybody that's affected by the financial moves that, or the decisions that you make, right? Like so many people keep their kids out of the finances of the household, right?
Bro,
And it's like,
financial infidelity is like the worst thing you can do. Period.
period, man.
If
And
you
it's
if you
like,
can't tell your old lady about how much money you just spent, you don't need to be with her because she finna leave you, bro.
for sure, between that and then like even with the kids too, like it's like, I get the premise though, right? Like kids should be kids, they
Shouldn't
shouldn't
have
have
to
to
worry
worry,
about it, right?
right? But it's not even that, right? It's like, look, if you're in a position to teach them, you have, like, that's our duty,
Right,
like that's why most people are in the position that they're in now financially. They didn't get exposed to this stuff early enough.
for
Like
sure.
most people don't start their financial journey for real until they're 30 plus.
Hey, what was it? Uh, your mama went and got a credit card in your name and paid the bill every month, and you got a 700 credit score before you hit 18. My mama got the lights turned on in my name and then didn't pay it. We
Yeah,
not the same people.
not the same people. you know they, like, hey, look, it's crazy because like there's actually like a ton of stories out there like that too, right? Like
Right,
because back in the day you could do that, like you
bruh.
know
I definitely had an AT&T phone in my name when I was like 14 because somebody didn't pay the bill the first time. I got, bruh, them 10 cent a minute long distance calls messed you up
every single time, man.
every
Like,
time, bro. You ain't got that 9 o'clock cutoff. You finna
yeah,
run
man.
that bill all the way up.
But nah, bro, like it's important to have, like, it's important to have that money stashed away, like it's like, especially like in that early phase of you building, like
For sure.
you got to live lean and mean for a short period of time, like freedom isn't free, somebody's got to pay the price, and like if you had the ability to, where if it was three, even if it took you 5 years, 3 to 5 years to really like hone in on what you really want your life to look like, your goals, financial goals, family goals, if you're spiritual, your spiritual goals, whatever, like, but if you really go hard at those things, and when I say go hard, like I'm talking about like utilizing your time wisely, because like sometimes people think like the grind, like this whole grind mentality, and it's like no, like I just work hard at the times that require me to work hard on those things, right?
Right.
And so because like hard work doesn't, like actual hard work in most cases doesn't get people to where they want to go,
Correct.
you know.
That's actually a good parlay. So let's talk about how to assess value or
Yeah,
paying for promotion.
100%. So like and so in terms of like in general, or like on the music spectrum.
So we're talking. I mean, it's all business talk because at the end of the day, we're all businessmen. But like, how do you feel about paying for marketing?
Yeah, interesting. um Most people are gonna hate me for this, but bro, I do not. In a lot of cases, like the businesses that I run are very low startup costs,
Mm-hmm.
low overhead, high profit margin businesses. So when it comes to word of mouth and referrals, like I understand that to the core to be one of the most powerful forms of like advertising.
Correct.
And it's free, you know. But when it comes to paying for promotion, I do believe that when you invest in, like, you should have a budget for those things. And if you're talking about scaling your business, like, because there's several ways to scale. You can scale with word of mouth, but in today's version of online, like if you can pay. Now here's the thing though, right? Like, what I don't like about having to pay for marketing and promotion is that, when you have companies that have a huge platform,
Mm-hmm.
and they control how that happens, and you don't have any control over that, and they change rules and they change algorithms and all that other stuff. It's a money grab, right? Like, you
Right.
end up spending money on stuff. And I mean, granted, like when you're in business, you have to be able to take those risks, but again, calculated risk, right?
Right.
So in today's version of advertising or paying for promotion and marketing, like we're starting to see companies go to like the influencer route, where it's not as traditional as paying for, a Facebook ad space, or, Google ads or things like that. And so I think well, it's not even that, right? Like, what I do know is this: when you're looking for somebody, if you're going to pay somebody to promote your business or your product or your service, like, number one, you want to make sure that those people have the audience for it.
Or they're
You know,
actual legitimate people.
well, that part too, right?
Because definitely some dude pretending to be from the Source magazine hit me up and said, "I'll put you in front of all 16 million of the Source's people." And I was like, "All right, bet. How much did that cost?" He's like, "I don't know, like $100." I'm like, "Bruh,
What?
if I could spend $100 and get into Source magazine with nothing up front but $100,
Mhm.
y'all would have people for years lined up." And that if it's
Yeah,
too good to be true, if it sounds too good,
yeah.
it probably is, and that still holds true 40 years later after they told me that.
It always will. It always will, because here's the thing, like I see people all the time, like they like on the timeline, they're like, pay me for to promote your product, and it's like, $20 here, $30 there, or whatever, right? But at the and granted, like, yeah, you can, if you got the money, cool, put it out there,
Right.
like, never be scared to invest in yourself and into your business. But there does come a point to where, like, it's kind of like you don't want to be in that mindset where you're just throwing things at the wall hoping that it sticks, you know because again, when you're already working with limited resources, you don't want to waste those resources on things that aren't going to work, and you're just winging it, right? But you bring up a good point of making sure that those people are legit, because, like, unfortunately, being online, there's a lot of BS that you got to filter through.
Right.
But that's why it's also important to, like, go to the source. But again, like, we're already in that phase now where people are starting go towards the influencer route
Right.
to because like number one, um, it's coming out to be a little bit more cost effective, you know. And I mean, because think about it, like, and I'm not gonna act like I've never paid somebody to promote, right? Like, I
Right.
mean, I paid somebody $30 to promote me on their page, but that $30 yielded, you know, a couple thousand, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, okay, that's cool, that's worth the investment, you know, like maybe we can do this again later on down the line, you know.
For sure.
So, you know, it's okay to start small in those areas of paying for promotion and things like that, just to kind of test the waters out. And like, I take a three I call it a, like, it's almost like what a style that I use with investing called a three fund approach. But like I do like a three ad approach where I'll put out three pieces of content, or you know, something that's supposed to be like an advertisement or a marketing thing, and I figure out which one is actually is doing the best,
Mm-hmm.
and then I pull from the others that aren't really performing, and I take those resources and I full forward, you know, launch that into the one that's actually working.
Right.
And you know, I mean, and that's just for like the beginners of people that, you know, are okay with investing that type of money into themselves and doing those things. But like, yeah, bro, like I think that having like, again, do your research on the people that you're going to be working with, you know. But there's no, like, you'd be surprised how people are willing to talk about your product for free.
Right.
You know, like
There's
like all you
also a
gotta
flip side of that. I was talking with one of the DJs in my area, and there was a band in like the mid 2000s. They were really hot on the local scene, right? And this is back in the days of MTV Spring Break, if you remember that.
true enough.
So like Plies showed up at one of their shows and was like, "Oh, y'all are dope. You should come out to MTV Spring Break, and you can be in front of all these people, and you can perform on stage."
Correct.
And their manager didn't let them go because they weren't gonna get paid. And
Imagine that.
I'm like, bruh, I'd throw in some money to be able, I would pay for my own shipping. You know what I'm saying? I'd row the damn boat to get there to be able to perform in front of a million people and be on MTV. I mean, if nothing else, I'd have that experience and I'd be like, hey, yo,
There we go.
I may not be nothing now, but I was on MTV Spring Break. Me and Carson Daly was kicking it. You know what I'm saying?
Like we talked about earlier, bro, like the networking, building
Mm-hmm.
that village, things like that. Like, bro, like for the like most people aren't willing to, like, I you know, and I like I don't even really like using the word humble, but like most people aren't willing to make those types of moves because they're so focused on making money.
Right.
And the instant gratification, like delayed gratification sometimes will pay you fortunes if you're
Mm-hmm.
like my my business partner says this all the time. So he's been in business, you know, like 25 years. And I remember there was this at one point in time in our business, I was like, bro, like I'm not really too sure if I'm gonna continue to do this, you know, because I value my time.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, Gary, man, like I like, one, I can't believe you're saying this, but two, like let's talk about how long, like, because when I met him and his wife, like they were making $500,000 a year whether they worked or not, right? So
Right.
like gone through that process already of like wanting to give up and all the other stuff. And so he's like, look, man, like this business has paid me and my family over $11 million over the last, you know, couple years. And he's like, but my first year in business, bro, I only made like $2,300. And he's like,
Right.
but all that time and effort, you know, I dealt with, you know, my wife telling me that, you know, like not being on my side in business, you know, being like the person that you would think would be, you know, supporting you is like against you,
Right.
right? And you know, I went through all of that. He's like, I could have easily threw in the towel. And he's like, but if you look at the amount of money that I've made with this business right now, and you break that down into averages, my first year in business was not $2,300. It was 315,000. And he was like, I just needed to stick around long enough to collect it. And
Right.
so it's the equity that you build. And you know, when you're an artist or even a business owner that provides a service or something like that, like you, like that social proof, or you know, that's important, especially in today's society where it's like seeing is believing in a lot of cases, right? Like, most people can see like a 30-second internet clip and they're like, oh, this person's full of shit. And it's like, well, yeah, you think that, but you weren't there behind the scenes when this person was really grinding. You weren't there. Like, you weren't there,
Right.
In fact, you're not even willing to do half of the things that this person was willing to do, but yet get behind a computer screen and talk shit, but it's like, like those types of opportunities, bro, like people pass up opportunities all the time to get exposure, and they never and later on down the line they end up regretting it,
Right.
right? And but that's the key to success, taking on opportunities, like being open-minded enough to say, I'm willing to give this a try even though I'm not getting paid and all of that other stuff, like it's like, but you are getting paid,
Right.
it just be in monetary compensation, but you're getting the experience, number one. You're getting the exposure, that's two. And then, oh, like, you get a chance to perfect your craft every time,
Right.
like, pissed if my manager told me that, like, we were turning down, and you mentioned Plies, like, obviously he was at like the top of his game then,
Correct.
like, and so to pass up an opportunity, I'd be pissed. Like, you just cost me probably tens of millions of dollars potentially later on down the line because you did this, right?
Right.
So that's why it's important too that the people that you have in your corner, that you make sure that, like, granted, you don't want a bunch of yes men around you,
Right.
but you definitely want to have people in your corner that are okay, and like, or that you all are on the same wavelength, like y'all are in unison because you guys are a team, especially when it comes to like everyone being that's involved in the situation getting paid. Like, it's business. We got to be on the same page. If we're not, like, I'm not sure how this is gonna work.
Realistically, and it's gonna sound really bad, I know it is, but you gotta have somebody with some business sense, and I don't mean just I sold drugs for a couple of years. You know what I'm
Fact.
saying?
Yeah.
Because realistically, if you can't do an evaluation of your value versus your risk, if you cannot assess the value in any business transaction, you don't need to be making financial decisions.
100.
And that leads me to another thing, and it's all tied in together. Is if you don't understand business concepts, if you don't understand marketing, if you don't understand
Yeah.
how to assess those values, there is no harm in finding somebody that does.
Correct.
Just like you could reclaim your time by paying somebody else to do that particular work for you, it does not matter what it is. If you're bad at mixing and mastering, if you're bad at marketing, if you're bad at managing, if you're bad at finding events to do, it is not a problem to find somebody that can do it for you.
Yes. Like, look at it like, look, like, obviously, if you look at Power Rangers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of the stupidest examples, but it works. So when you look at the Power Rangers, like, individually, like, they could do their own thing, right? Like,
Right.
when they morphed together, like, that was a whole nother ballgame. Like, you knew as soon as they're like, it's morphing time, like, it's a wrap for
Right.
whoever they were, and but it was always like that struggle part of the episode, right, where they're getting their asses kicked, and then all of a sudden they decide, like, hey
Teamwork
man,
makes the dream work.
come on, I need help. And so, and it's okay, right, like, to get help. But what happens is that most people think they equate getting help to them having to shell out money.
Right.
you know like, that's why, like, my mindset is it doesn't always have to be money. Find something of value that you bring to the table that you can offer.
Right.
And if you don't have anything, then yeah, you got to get your paper up, like,
Right.
pay somebody.
If you ain't got something to offer, you gotta have something to offer.
Correct, at all times, and so
It used to be in the '70s was ass, gas, or grass. Everybody pays something. I mean, realistically, even in modern business terms, those things is still very true. But
yeah,
if you're not bringing something to the table, you're not going to have people willing to work with you.
yeah. And if you're uneducated, but here's the thing, like, even if you're not good at those things, you can still take the time to develop yourself in those
Right.
areas. Right. Like, and I think that that's probably now in the beginning phase where it's like, you really don't have that time to do that. Then of course, you like hire it out, leverage it. But also when you do leverage, be sure to know how the process works. You
Oh,
know
Oh,
for
for
sure.
sure.
You
You
have
have
to
to
have
have
some
some
idea of
idea of
how
how
the
the
business
business
works
works
so
so
you
you
can
can
know
know
if
if
you're
you're
getting
getting
scammed or
scammed or
not.
not.
exactly. But also too, like you got to be able to think for yourself, bro. Like I like so many people want to rely on somebody else to do the thinking for them, and it's like dude, like you have to know how to. Man, my ADD, I'm telling you, bro. Let me see. What was the last thing that you got that
We were talking about paying people to do work for you that you're not an expert in.
yeah. So like the oh yeah, that's where we were at. So what I was saying was like, ignorance of the law does not make us exempt, like just because we don't know something doesn't mean that it doesn't apply to us.
Correct.
So even from the standpoint of like dealing like because like most people don't know the law, so like when you're dealing with contracts and things like that, it's important to have some type of professional.
Hmm.
But I also believe, like, that's why I do believe in like getting professional help, because when you're not an expert in that area, like, I'd rather listen to an expert as well.
Right.
But also, when you're dealing with people, like, if you know you don't know shit about the law, and you have like legal dealings, and you're dealing with a lawyer and stuff like that, it's okay to let them know, like, listen, we need to talk in layman's terms,
Hmm.
right? Like the moment you start speaking high level and all this other stuff, that's the moment you lost me, right?
Right.
And but also there's that other side too of most people want to put on this front like they do know everything, and that gets them screwed over too, because
Right.
then like
If you're
I
not
mean
admitting you don't know it, then you can't
yeah,
adjust for
because
things you don't know.
yeah, because they see it as a sign of weakness and stuff like that, and it gives people the ability to take advantage of you because you don't know, and stuff like that. But regardless, you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
and so that's why it's important. Like that's why I believe in like self improving, and learn and having a self education, where you're doing the research on your own. You're like, because it's nothing like being able to think and be on your own 2 feet, and you don't necessarily have to rely on someone else. But if you needed to, you could, and also if someone needed you in that area too, you could be able to provide that value as well,
For sure.
for sure, man. So that's important. But weighing out the costs that are associated with you doing business, like you always have to be able to figure out what, because like most people in their in when they're doing business, it is to make money, you know, and if the whole goal is making money, you can't afford to be spending it all.
Right.
Um, you know, you can't afford to spend it all. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it really comes down to. So having those basic core fundamentals of business and understanding, like, what's coming in versus what's going out, like you need to know everything that's happening. Like, where's your money going? You know?
So that's actually a good. That's actually a good layman. We're going to rotate into this one.
Yeah.
Negotiating your splits.
Okay.
I imagine that you don't really know much about how the music business works, and this is more of a recording. So, generally, the way to explain it is the money that you make by performing a song, if you record a song and you distribute it, half of it goes to the person that distributes your music, half of it goes to the people that make the music. And the
Right.
people that make the music, it is split up. That's what the split is, with the people that make the music, the people that write the lyrics, and the people that
Right.
actually sing it. And again, that money is split up amongst the people because multiple writers,
Correct.
multiple composers, multiple people that sing. When you are independent, when you are a one man show, you get all of that together.
All of it.
And then once you have a distributor set up, they get the distributor, you get the performance, and if they provide writers, they that splits your money up. And when you have composers, that splits your money up.
Right.
Like realistically, 90% of country music is all ghost written. It's all
Correct.
one person gets money for singing, and all the rest of it goes to the company that produces them.
For sure.
So that brings us to negotiating those splits. How do you know that your portion of the money that's coming in is not being divided amongst everybody else? How do you notice that in your contracts?
Yeah, so that's proper business structure to begin with, right? Like,
Mhm.
off top before you even sign paperwork, just understanding like how the contract is going to work, how it's going to be divided up. Like that goes back to like what we were previously talking about, how ignorance of the law doesn't make you exempt.
Mhm.
And so, I in at least from my standpoint, right, when it comes to negotiations and because like I mean I've got business deals where we split the money and stuff like that, but it's really based off of value. Like, what value do you bring to the project that's gonna like how is the money that you're gonna be paid? Like, how do we justify you being
Right.
paid that money? You know, and like it's almost like a group project at school. Like you barely did anything, and you expect a full grade.
Right.
Like
I want my
so.
quarter percent. I want
Yeah,
25% of it.
like
Just write my name on it.
now granted there's certain parts of that that's like we that are unavoidable,
Hmm.
especially from the music standpoint, right? Like when you're not independent, but that's also why you feel like a lot of artists are taking the independent route in today's version of music. But when it comes down to that, like it's important to have like again a lawyer or some type of legal professional, or some type of contract advisor, a negotiator
A
on your
manager
behalf.
that
Like,
actually knows what's going on.
no,
Something.
literally, bro. Like, I mean, like, especially on that side, if you have somebody representing you already, like you kind of mentioned it earlier, right? It can't be like, it probably shouldn't be your homeboy that was selling dope that just so happened to be a good trapper.
Right.
It should probably be somebody that is properly educated on these things. They know exactly how it works, the taxes that come along with it, all of that, because like that stuff's important, right? Like you got to know how you make your money, where like when it gets to you, how much of it is going to be yours actually, right?
Right.
Because just because you receive that money doesn't mean that it's all yours, right? So in a lot of cases, that's why I believe that it's important to have a professional. Like when anytime I'm at the negotiation table, like whether it be a real estate deal or something like that, like I have the pros take a look at those things,
Right.
to make sure I'm not getting bent over, at the end.
Right.
Like I'm not one of those. Like, there's people that have the mindset that in business somebody has to win and somebody has to lose.
Zero sum.
Yep. Never split the difference, the whole nine. But at the end of the day, there is a way for businesses to be ran holistically where it benefits it's a win-win-win for everybody that's involved in that situation.
Yep.
And I believe that that's some of the if you look across the board, that's like that's some of the best business, like some of the biggest businesses that are out there, they operate from that line of thinking. And so I think that it's important to have a professional when it comes to that negotiation process, especially if you're very inexperienced in that area. Like, that is an area that I would recommend contracting out or leveraging out, because like, one, the law can be complicated.
Right.
The legal language is definitely complicated. Like, dude, I've got terrible ADHD and dyslexia. Like, there's no way I'm sitting down reading small print and things like that, looking to for like like they don't even put it in layman's terms,
Yeah.
right? So in those cases, it's like you're confused, and for majority of people, that's how they end up being in bad deals, because they're impatient. I mean, most people don't even read the terms and conditions on apps that they download,
Right.
right? And then all sudden everybody's outraged at these apps selling your information. And it's like, you signed up for it,
Bruh.
you
Every
know?
when I first started all my business accounts, I started reading those terms of services, and a lot of them like, well, we provide you leads, you pay for those leads, but you're responsible for maintaining the privacy and efficacy of those leads, and
Yeah.
if any of you have to provide some way to secure that information, and you have to make sure that you're not a data breach because we're providing you sensitive information in exchange for
Yep.
money. And I'm like, don't need that. I'm not
Yep.
trying to pay for that. I don't want the liability of that.
There you go.
Y'all can just follow me, send me an email. You know what I'm saying? You
There you
provide your
go.
information directly. I ain't got to worry about somebody sending me a CSV file with 10,000 names in it, but that might be something that I can be held responsible for.
For
So,
sure. Yeah, man. Like, professionals, bro. Like, I don't play around when it comes to that stuff, man.
then,
Because
then
like that shit,
TOS
cause,
papers are ridiculous.
bro, listen, man. Like, here's the thing. Like, being in the field that I'm in terms of finances, one of the ways that I find that people lose out on money long term is through taxation, medical expenses, and litigation, lawsuits. And we're in such a sue happy world to begin with, like if you don't have if you don't have something to protect your assets, you know, like, and it doesn't matter if you have like a mansion, it doesn't matter if you like are just getting going, you need some type of asset protection. And that comes on the legal side, but majority of people aren't in a position where they, again, this is why networking is important, like I mean, there's professionals that I believe everybody should have in their life, and some type of legal advisor or an attorney. Like, I think having one of those people in your network is so important, especially if you're in business, yo.
And
Especially,
and that brings us to our last swap over. How do you feel about DBAs, EINs, and DUNS numbers?
yeah. So I mean, here's the thing. We kind of talked about it earlier, but like, it's difficult to play a game when you don't know the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it comes to DBAs and things like that, so I believe in having a proper business structure. And there's no one way to structure a business, because everybody, like, depending on what you want out of that business, that's going to determine what type of structure you really need. And
Mm-hmm.
like I get so tired of seeing these types of things online where everybody's like, oh, go get an LLC, or go get an S corp, go do this, go do that. And it's
You
like,
got to
man,
make so much money for an S corp to be worth
dude,
it.
man, I'm telling you, like, and like, I had a conversation with a young lady the other day, and she's like, oh yeah, I want to structure my business like this, that, and the third. And I'm like, well, first of all, you don't even make 100 grand in your business. So like, you know, the things that you're trying to do is typically when you reach a certain level of income, right? Like, when you reach a certain level of income, that's when you start doing those things,
Right.
And so, like, I have nothing against DBAs, I have nothing against like EIN numbers and stuff like that. But what my main thing is this: do it like proper business structure is extremely important. And I recommend, like, again, bro, like, I will always defer to a professional in any given moment when it comes down to like business structure, all that other stuff, that stuff's important. Like, I mean, granted, like a DUNS number, all that stuff, like they give that stuff for free, like
Right.
they give that stuff like it's candy. Um, but I do believe that, like, but from the standpoint of which people talk about these things, in majority of cases, when you come across this stuff, they're talking about, getting these things so you can build business credit
Yep.
and things like that. And what most people fail to realize is that when you utilize the system that way, and you start picking up debt, and you start picking up these lines of credit, what most of these people don't talk to you about is having the cash flow, you know,
Right.
because cash flow is really important. They'll say things like credit is king, and all this other stuff, but good luck when you can't back that thing up.
Cash rules
And
everything around me. Cream, get the
hey,
money. Dollar bills, y'all.
dollar bills, y'all. So, like, I believe in having a proper business structure, bro. Like, I mean, there was a time in my business where, like, it was like, okay, LLC, whatever, and it was just because I was learning.
Mm-hmm.
But when it came down to structuring a business, I started to learn from like people that had over $200 million in net worth. Like, when I'd rather learn from somebody that's doing something like that than just go off of a whim with like what I think to be true or whatever the case is, right? But I believe that if you want a solid structured business, those things are important. And if you do at some point in time want to um, add more value, because some people think that people try to avoid taxes doing this, right? And it's like, most people have never, like, they don't see the value that business owners bring to society, right?
Right.
Like all they see is like, oh, this business made such and such amount of money, the owner of the business didn't pay any taxes, and it's like, well, they did, it's just to a different capacity,
Bruh, you
right?
pay so much taxes. You pay local taxes, you pay city taxes, you pay state taxes, you pay federal income taxes. And when you when and this is the real crappy part is people don't realize that if you have money that's come in but it hasn't gone out yet, you have to show what that money is for, or
Correct.
else it's considered income and you got to pay taxes on it,
You got to pay taxes on
even
it.
if there's a bill waiting for it.
Correct.
It's super sketchy when you start looking at how that goes. Like for instance, I bought a trailer. Uh, Let me correct that. I sold a trailer for somebody,
Yeah.
and I had to pay them the money that I got for the trailer after my commission. So
Right.
like the trailer came in, I sold it for 30. I gave them 27. So without that check saying that 27 left and without noting that it was for the payment on the trailer and that the
Yep.
$3,000 was the only money that I kept from it, I would have been on the hook for all
All
30,000
that
of
money.
it because I did not have a previous paperwork saying how much I paid for the trailer.
Correct.
And
Imagine that.
right. And imagine that to like millions. You know what I'm saying? Imagine having money that hasn't quite gone into R&D yet, that
Correct.
hasn't been allocated out yet.
Yep.
And
And that's
it
important, bro.
is so
Like
ridiculous. You have to be
that,
so meticulous on your books in order to not get bent over the barrel on all of it.
yeah, again, that's why it's important, like, to have people in your life that are good at doing stuff like that, right? Because then again, like that defeats you having to keep up with like every single penny that went out of your account, and you can focus on the most important things, which is driving your business forward.
Right.
And like, but again, bro, like that structure is so important. And but doing business as DBAs, EINs, Duns numbers, and things like that, that's a real part of business.
Mhm.
And my best recommendation when it comes to setting up a business is, number one, like, again, it's always going to come down to doing your research.
Mhm.
Like, be able to think for yourself. And you don't have to spend, you don't have to invest like hundreds of hours into learning this stuff, right? But I mean, think about how much time people waste on a day-to-day basis to begin with. It's nothing to like really, really make a pivot. So E versus E. There's a book called The E Myth, and it talks about this actually. And it talks about how, like, it's E versus E, education versus entertainment.
Mhm. Mhm.
And pretty much like where we allocate our time at, and how we could replace the time that we utilize like entertaining ourselves and use that towards education. And so it's like these are the common things that people could research, and actually be able to make a determination for themselves on what how they should structure their business. But when you have that idea, you have that baseline of knowledge, you can now take that to a professional and say, hey, you know this is what I'm thinking about doing. If you were in my position as a professional, what would you do?
Right.
And now you can get the expert advice on how to maneuver. And if that's in alignment with what you're really looking for out of your life, then pull the trigger on it,
Right.
right? But if not, make a pivot. And so, yeah, bro, like, I mean, I think that stuff's important in a business. But also, like, cuz you don't want to have everything like, I can't stand when I see a logo and it says like, hustle LLC, and it's like, why do you have LLC in your logo? Like,
Right.
get a DBA, do business as your the name of your business of what you want it to be, like, because if you think about,
I've always separated my business names from my DBAs. It's
got
like,
to,
I mean, so financial insulation is the whole purpose of an LLC, is to
correct,
make sure that if something goes wrong, they can't come take your house. And if
protect
you
your
don't
money.
have assets, an LLC is really pointless for you. But it's something that as you develop, you have to know that it's coming. So
Correct,
like so I don't want to lose my house. I don't want to lose my cars. I don't want to lose any money that I have in outside investments. If any of my
correct,
companies have subsidiaries or they have other branches, I don't want those to be affected by anything that I do in this particular business.
correct.
But if I'm living in my mama's house on $20 a day, I don't really need to pay for LLC paperwork just yet. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Just yet. When we start getting some cheese coming in, then we'll worry about incorporating.
yeah, bro. Like, but and most people jump into the, like, again, bro. Like, society says that if you don't have an LLC, if you don't have all this stuff, you're not a real business owner. I mean, in the eyes of the law, maybe, but
Not in
like,
the eyes of the law,
I think
sole proprietorship is the number
there
one
we
way
go.
to run business.
There we
You
go. I
just
was
put
just
it
about
on
to
your
bring that up,
social.
bro.
You just pay your
I was
taxes
just
like
about to bring
normal.
that up. Exactly, bro. I was just about to bring that up. Like most people feel like, because that's like, again, people are like ants. you know like they get a hold of some information, they heard a little bit of it, they don't understand fully of what that is, but then they just turn around and start spreading the word. It's almost like the telephone game.
Right?
And like by the time the information really gets to you, it's watered down and it's not what it's really supposed to be. But that's also why you find people being in bad situations, right? Like they did all this stuff, their business is set up improperly, and they get penalized for that, and now they're out of business. Now they're like, and they're pissed off and they're upset with themselves and the people that were involved in the situation with them.
For
And
sure.
so, like it's nah, seriously, man, like you can work your way up in business. And in fact, you probably should,
Right.
instead of like again, bro, like I kind of mentioned it earlier during when I was answering the question for you, but it's like, people sign up for all this stuff and it's like, dude, like you're way out of your league doing this right now. Like you're not there yet. And but again, social media says that if you don't have all of this stuff together, you aren't legit, you know?
So just
And people,
just a rule of thumb. If you don't have somebody that you are paying wages to, you probably don't need to incorporate.
boom. I mean,
If you're not paying somebody else to work for you, you probably don't need that paperwork.
oh,
Just
brother.
saying.
And there's ways around that too, right? Like,
Right. You can
I
still
mean,
have an EIN as a sole proprietorship, by
bro,
the way.
the employees, man.
Hmm.
Like, well, outside of like my my kids, being on paper as employees and stuff like that, but that's a little bit different, right? But again, like, but for the most part, when I'm like handling business, everybody's on a contract, bro. Like,
For
it's
sure.
like, I don't like. I believe in contracting people. Like when you put somebody on a W-2, you've just put them in a position to pay the highest form of taxes. And for me, genuinely wanting to help people, I know that employing them is good. That may not be as beneficial, but it's
Right?
like if we put you on a 1099, and it's like, hey, look, you can write off your gas mileage, you can write, whatever you need to do. You got your
1099
money.
is a slippery slope, though.
It can't be, but at the end of like when you've been doing it, like and again, bro, like I've learned from people that have been doing this for like over 20 years. So it's like and also you get a different work ethic.
Right. For sure.
You get a completely different work ethic. So like when we talk about producing quality, that's why a lot of like that that's why most people are scared of commission. You know, like they're they're scared of commission. Why? Because they smell real work.
Bro. So, like, commission, no draw. That is the sketchiest work environment you can be in. Just 100%. I've
For sure.
done it. And you're like, man, I ain't getting a check this week.
Oh
Well,
man,
I guess we eating kidney beans again.
we eating kidney beans today.
Put some hot sauce on them. That's all you got.
Hey man, look, you better get you a bag of Lay's and throw some ketchup on them
Bro, you can't
things.
afford Lay's, man. You got to get the
Hey,
knockoff Dollar General ones, man. The 99-cent
hey, look,
bag.
the 99 cent bag, huh? Look, I think that's like $1.09 now, ain't it?
Bro, dollar cent. Man, Arizona tea 99 cent ain't 99 cent no more, man.
Hey, not at all, bro. I mean, it'd be like that, man. Like, I don't think, but think about it, bro. Like, nothing's been cheaper. Everything's gotten more expensive as we've gotten older. It's just,
I
um,
mean, the idea of getting things as cheaply as possible, that whole concept needs to go on somewhere for real, for real.
yeah, man. Look, at this point, it's like people are fighting for their lives right now, man, and like
100%.
and it's like I feel for so many people, bro, but like that's why I'm really proud of like where we are in business right now, like with our financial services company, because it's like we serve the middle American families that like are widely overlooked by financial institutions and things like that. And it's like when majority of people are just trying to figure out how the hell they're going to pay their car note next week, or pay their
Man.
rent to come up and stuff like that. The last thing on their mind is like they can only think but so far. And that's why it's okay to take the baby steps, like it's okay to, because like every step that you do take puts you closer to where you want to be later on down the line. But, you know, also I'm of the mindset that if you can get the shit done faster, man, like please just do it. Like your family needs you to do that. Like somebody's depending on you to go out and deliver.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't fall victim to, just life beating you up, man. Like and I'm not going to give you a cliche like life will give you what you're willing to fight for, but it'll definitely give you what you deserve.
It'll give you
You know,
lemons, and you got to
you know,
do something with it.
you better do something with it, man.
Right.
Like cuz there's opportunity in every situation. And it's just a matter of how you decide you want to view those situations. You can look at life right now like, I'm financially strapped, money's tight, and all this other stuff, but also you can look at that and be like, okay, well, we're financially strapped, money's tight, and this is the reason why I should probably reevaluate my time, where it's being invested, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and putting that like making a maximum effort to change your situation. Like there's nothing like being dead fucking broke, and then when the bills are due, and then out of nowhere it's like boom, money hit my account, you know, and
The tax
it's like
refund.
something, something got to
Some,
hit, something, but like most people are clinging at a hope and a prayer that, maybe them stimmies are coming back. Maybe, the job market might turn around and
bruh.
be different.
Bruh, the worker revolution, when people realize that they are worth more than as little as possible. When people are like, all of a sudden, I ain't got to work, I ain't got to do these BS jobs in order to make it. All of a sudden, I
Yep.
can focus on me. All of a sudden, the whole world just realized we've all been getting scammed for the past 40 years. What's up
Yeah.
with that? And now
Man,
all of a sudden, people are like, well, the workers have too much power. They're demanding too much money. We need
no,
to
they're
stop.
not. No, they're not. Like, and here's the thing, bro. Like, and this, I really love what's happening, actually. Because like for us that have been in entrepreneurship for like a decade, it's like we've been telling you guys this for years.
Mm-hmm. You're
Like,
worth a lot more than that.
fine, yeah, definitely, right. But like, because I mean, you look at books like Think and Grow Rich and things like that have been around for years, decades on top of decades, and like, so the information's out there, but like, but that's another reason why like it's like I don't contribute to the social media where they're like why are you only talking about entrepreneurship? Like, not everybody should be, dude, whatever. Like, if you haven't learned yet that when you actively trade hours for dollars, when you rely on one source of income, that can by far be one of the most dangerous situations to be in financially, then you need to make moves, right? And it's again, it's okay to make the baby steps, but if you can take the time and the effort to like really, really make leaps and bounds into it, like Grant Cardone has a book called Be Obsessed or Be Average, and that book actually like and obviously like he doesn't pay me to promote his book, right? But
Right.
that's a book that changed my life, you know, like at a time in my life where I was like super complacent because I was making $6,000 a month working two full-time jobs, but I was also
Jesus.
building my business on the side. I was also
That's
building
a
my
lot.
business. Hell yeah, man. Like, but here's the thing, bro. But this is why I don't let people give me excuses about why they can't get to the next level, man. Like, I was doing that. I got sick. I lost 40 pounds in a matter of 3 months, Like,
Where you
it was
lose
shit.
40 pounds from? You ain't got 40 pounds to
Hey,
lose.
look, exactly, bro. Like, and that's the whole thing. Like, my life was on the line, man. Like, I had to go into entrepreneurship. That saved my life, man. So, like, that's why I'm passionate about talking about business and getting to the next level. Because if I wouldn't have started a business, bro, like my family, we'd most likely be struggling.
So,
Most likely,
like, I'll give you, I'm on the other side of that one, by the way.
yeah,
So, like, I was 29. I got a decade in working on cars. I was working
right,
at an auto shop on cars. Somebody dropped a tire off top shelf, hit me in my shoulder, herniated two discs in my back. Right? Hit the ground, workers' comp. Workers' comp was denied because I'm a big boy and I probably could have been playing football over the weekends. That's what they
really,
said to me. And they tried to roll back my short term disability and my insurance so they wouldn't have to pay nothing. I
That's
spent
crazy.
over a year recovering after surgery. My back
Mhm.
was never back together. As soon as I stepped foot back in that shop, they wrote me up like 7 times, fired me within the first week I came back to work.
Imagine that, bro.
And that made me realize that if I died today, they'd have my job filled before my funeral. And
There
like
we go.
people say that a lot, and it sounds really dramatic and excessive, but it is
It's
so
true,
true. It is so true.
dude.
They will have that job filled before the dirt's even
That's
fresh on your body.
100%. Like, I mean, I remember, like, so when I was working the two jobs, bro, like, so I was having to, call out of work and things like that, or get my schedule replaced. And by the way, like, I'm a manager at both of these jobs,
Mm,
so like, showing up, like, it is important. And so, like, I just remember like having a meeting, and this is like, and again, ignorance of the law. Like, I probably should have sued them or something like this to that degree, but now this manager that had the conversation with me wasn't even like my supervisor, like this is somebody that was like we were at on the same level of leadership inside the organization. So
mhm.
like he sits down with me, he's like, Gary, man, like I'll never forget this, bro. He's like, Gary, man, like I know that, like we understand that you're having health challenges, and the benefits of that job suck too. So like I like, like when it comes to like medical treatments and things like that, like I found out real quick that work insurance doesn't really cover a lot of things that, and so like I would have to come out of pocket for my doctor's visits and things like that, and I'm like, dude, I don't really got the money to be doing all this.
Right.
And so the manager, he tells me, he says, Gary, man, like, we know about your health challenges and things like that, but I just want to let you know, man, we got a business to run. And if you show up late, if you no call, no show, if you need somebody to take your shift, and by the way, like that was in the rules. Like we could have somebody take our shift and it wasn't supposed to count against us.
Right.
But they started docking me for that,
Right.
and like
They looking to
and
replace you before they had to pay you.
hell, bro, they wanted me to train my replacement. There's no way I was gonna let them do that to me, bro.
Right.
But that wasn't my first run in with getting, the stiff end of corporate America, right? Like my first job, I was working at Chuck E. Cheese. I was
Right.
16 years old, and like I had like they sold me the dream of running my own Chuck E. Cheese one day and working my way up the corporate ladder, starting at the age of 16. And it's like, all right, cool, and I started seeing like some of my friends that I was working with getting promoted, and I'm like, man, why the hell am I not getting promoted, bro? Like I work hard as hell. And then like I have the conversation, and my manager's like, dude, like, you're always like you're gone at the times where we need you, like which is on Saturdays. And I'm like, dude, I'm a high school student and I run track, like, and
Right.
our track. And so it's like, all right, well, cool. So I grew up with that job pretty much for the most part. Like I went 16 to I worked there till I was like I quit right before my 21st birthday. And at that time, they had a position where it was called opening coordinator.
Hmm.
And so like I was in that position to open the store. Like so I had
Day
a
shift
really sweet,
manager.
hey, look, I had a really sweet schedule, but like you couldn't be on salary because you have to be 21 years old in order to be a salary manager because
Right.
they alcohol there, right? So right before my 21st birthday, Chuck E. Cheese changed ownership, and like all the big wigs came in, and I worked at a corporate store. So like all the big wigs come in, and they had just changed the way that you make the pizza and all kinds of shit, bro. So it was like a lot of changes. People hate change.
Right.
So like these big wigs come in and they're like, hey, can we talk to you? And so they pull me into the office and they're like, look, we're getting ready to make some changes. And the position that you're at is no longer going to be available. So they were like, so here's your options. You can either be the manager of the game room or you can be the manager of the kitchen. But either way, like you have to take a pay cut and you need to step down
Right.
because this position will no longer be there. So like at that time, I'm like, man, I just had my first kid. I'm like, I gotta deliver,
Right.
and y'all talk cutting my pay, and like, I was already making more money than what I should have been anyway because like the manager at the first store that I was at was like giving me dollar raises like throughout the years, and so I was at a cap limit too.
Hmm.
So that was like my first time really experiencing like corporate America like fucking me over. And like they were like, yeah, but you got some vacation time from all these years. And I'm like, okay. So like they're like, think about it before I make a decision. Cause they try to soften the blow, right?
Right.
But
Right.
but they're like, use your benefits because they know I'm gonna quit. So
100%.
I I take my vacation time, and then I applied for Walmart, and then like Walmart hired me like on the spot. I filled the application out the next day. I'm there and I'm getting hired. So Walmart, that was like my second encounter with corporate America. Now by that point in time, like I had a good friend of mine. He had a mentor in his life, and so he taught me how to trade like stocks and things like that. So I was making money doing that on the side, and when I started working for Walmart, I got to a position where like I was a trainer for like the loss prevention and stuff like that. I
Hmm.
actually helped open up three of the stores that they have in Washington D.C.
Dope.
And so these, but so I have experience in like management and things like that. Like retail management is like my background.
Right.
And what ended up happening was like they fucked me over too. Like they have a policy where you're not supposed to work off of the clock. And if you do, you're supposed to get paid for it. Well,
Correct.
unfortunately, the position that I was in, I was the only person that could fulfill the job, and that required me to work overtime. And
But they didn't
so
want to pay you that. Right.
they didn't want to pay you that. And so they made up this whole thing about stealing time and all this stuff, bro. And I'm like, what? Like just to get me out of here. And so when I threatened to sue them and everything, like we parted ways on just off the formality. But again, I wish I knew back then what I know now.
Right. You should have
That would
filed with the Department of Labor and got your
dude,
cheese.
I would have got paid, man,
Got
because I wasn't the only
paid.
person they were doing that to, right? So like that was like they ended up getting a class action lawsuit against them of over
Correct.
the doing.
So like legit, some dude just got like charged with a felony for stealing like $55 worth of stuff from the self
Yeah,
checkout. But wage theft is by far the biggest crime to exist
dude,
in this country,
and
and
they get bailed
nobody get problems with it. You know, we don't. That's good business. That's good business. Not paying those
for sure.
people. They're not working
Right.
anyways.
Yeah, imagine that. Like, and it's like all for the dollar, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that any dollar should really be made when you take advantage of people.
For sure.
And like I like it's unfortunate, but it is what it is, right? Like, and I've gone through that whole phase of like corporate America like sticking it to me. And here in Houston, dude, like there's massive layoffs that happen all the time. So like I just at that time in my life, I just wasn't willing to I was willing to take the risk of going into business for myself and my kids seeing me go after my goals and dreams to try to deliver for our family than me stick around and be unhappy because also like working 80 plus hours a week, I never saw my family. So and like anybody that knows me, like they know that like my kids are like that's I mean that's what gets me going. And so to not be able to invest that time with my family, but like imagine that like people spend more time with people that they care about the least and the least amount of time with the people that they care about the most.
Yeah.
And
Nobody notice when you can't pay them bills, but they notice when you ain't at the house.
oh, for sure. And and we're taught that like if you don't work, you don't eat.
Hmm.
And like I mean, and that just goes down to rewiring. Like you got to have the desire to rewire if you really want to, get to the next level and stuff like that. But like I just remember being so pissed off about my life and about how things were going, and I'll never act like the people around me weren't supportive, right?
Right.
Like I've got a great village of people that really and really really support me even though like my life wasn't always peaches and cream growing up, like or nothing like that, like I jumped off the porch early. And at the end of the day, um those people that were around me in that time frame of while I was going through that, like I'll always hold those folks down just off of the strength that
I hear
that
it,
was.
baby.
Yeah, you hear her.
I hear it, baby.
Yeah, she just turned one the other day, bro.
Congratulations. All right. So, anybody you want to give shout outs to? Any projects you're working on? Anything you want to holler out at?
I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, if anybody, like, my shout out would definitely be to anybody that hears this and they decide that they want to take on the journey of leveling up in their life financially, right? Kudos to you, because at the end of the day, it does take courage, to
Mm-hmm.
do the exact opposite of what society says that you're supposed to be doing, And so, in terms of like a plug, bro, like, I mean, you and I, we're on the same platforms together, and I believe that, if anybody taps into our networks, they can definitely get to where they want to go in life, man. Like, it's important together. But we're always down. And then also shout out to my wife. Like, she's really the backbone behind everything.
Oh yeah.
Like, she holds it down. She's a boss. She's a boss woman. At the end of the day, she's got some good stuff going on too, man. Like, so be on the lookout. She's got an ebook that she just dropped.
Awesome.
That's
I
it's
think I saw
powerful.
that. Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I think I
And it's
saw
powerful.
that.
Like, she put some like it's she put some effort behind this thing, man. Like, and I love just watching, like, her do her thing too, man. Like, and just growing, especially after having a baby too. Like, our youngest before our daughter now is like 9 years old, man. So we pretty much started over. So, like, just watching her build that confidence all over again, and just get back on the swing of things, man. Like, that's like it's impressive to see. But yeah, man, like, I mean, that's what it is, bro. Like, but overall, man, I appreciate the time,
Yes, sir.
and the overall, bro, we should definitely do this again sometime.
Oh, definitely. All right, man. Well, on that note, I'm gonna let you go, and
Hey,
we'll pick up again soon.
for sure, fam.
All right.
That
Take it
works.
easy.
All right, holla.